Right now, you've got about $100,000 saved for retirement, and a quiet voice keeps whispering that it's not enough, that you waited too long. Friend, let me stop you right there, because that number sitting in your account is not the thing that decides whether you get to retire. Not even close. And by the end of our time together today, you're going to understand exactly why and what the number that actually matters really is. Here's the thing. Almost every video you'll find on retiring with $100,000 is written for a 50-year-old who still has 15 good working years ahead of them. It's all about how to grow that 100 grand into something bigger. And that's fine advice for a 50-year-old, but that's not everybody watching me right now, is it? A lot of you are 60, 63, 65, standing at the door looking at $100,000 and thinking, I don't have 15 years to grow this. I'm nearly out of runway. What do I actually do? Now that is the question nobody's answering. And that is exactly the question we're going to answer today, step by step. And look, if you're already feeling that little knot loosen in your chest, if you're thinking, okay, finally, somebody's talking to me, do me one small favor. Tap that like button and go ahead and subscribe to Uncle John Financial. It genuinely helps me get this in front of more good folks your age who are lying awake at night worrying about this exact thing. That's all I'll ask. Now, let's get to work on your money. Let me start by taking the shame out of the room, because I think a lot of you are carrying some. You look at that $100,000 and you feel like you failed. So let me show you where you actually stand. According to the Federal Reserve's own survey of American families, the median household aged 55 to 64 has around $185,000 saved. And here's the part that matters. That's the median for people who have anything at all. When you look at the folks right in the heart of their 50s, the typical investable savings sits right around $100,000. And get this, 1 in 4 Americans approaching retirement has less than $19,000 put away. 19,000. So I want you to hear me clearly. You are not the exception. You are not behind the class. You are standing right in the middle of the pack with millions of your neighbors. Plain and simple, $100,000 does not make you a failure. It makes you normal. And here's what most people do not realize. Normal can absolutely retire in this country, but only if you stop measuring the wrong thing. So let me show you what the right thing is. Now here's where it gets really important, and I promise this next part is going to change how you think about your entire retirement. Let's do the honest math on that $100,000, the math most channels tiptoe around. There's a well-known guideline called the 4% rule. It says in your first year of retirement, you can safely pull about 4% of your savings. 4% of $100,000 is $4,000 a year. That's $333 a month. Now, I want to be a good neighbor and tell you the truth. $333 a month is not a retirement. You cannot live on that. And if I stopped the video here, you'd click away thinking Uncle John just confirmed your worst fear. But stay with me, because here is the reframe that changes everything. That $100,000 was never supposed to be your retirement in the first place. It's not the engine. It's the shock absorber. It's the cushion that keeps a bump in the road from becoming a crash. The real engine of your retirement, the thing that's actually going to pay your bills month after month for the rest of your life, is something you may have been ignoring completely. And that, folks, is Social Security. Now, I know, some of you just rolled your eyes. You've heard Social Security is going broke. You figure it's peanuts, and you've mentally written it off. That is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make, and I want to fix it right now. Let's talk real numbers. In 2026, the average retired worker collects about $2,070 a month from Social Security. That's roughly $25,000 a year landing in your account, guaranteed, adjusted for inflation every single year for as long as you live. Now, if you're married, there are 2 checks coming into that house. 2 people collecting near the average is close to $50,000 a year, guaranteed, inflation-protected income you cannot outlive. Let me put that in perspective so it really lands. To buy that much guaranteed lifetime income on the open market through an annuity from an insurance company, a couple could easily need $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 in cash. So if you're sitting there with Social Security on the way and $100,000 in the bank, you don't actually have a $100,000 retirement. You have something much closer to $1 million retirement. You just built most of it through 40 years of payroll taxes instead of a brokerage account. Now do you see why your account balance was lying to you? Now do you see why the number that matters most isn't in your 401k statement at all? And if you've already watched our video on how JP Morgan studied 5 million retirees and found you may not need $2 million after all, then this is the ground-level, real-world proof of that very idea. Most Americans retire on far less than the scary headlines claim, and they retire just fine, because guaranteed income, not a giant pile of savings, is what actually carries a retirement. So let's stop obsessing over the pile and start building the income. And the single most powerful move you have to build that income is the one we're turning to right now.
Here it is, the most valuable financial decision available to almost everyone watching me, and it costs you nothing but patience. It's the decision of when you claim Social Security. Now listen to this, because this is the whole ballgame. Your full retirement age, if you were born in 1960 or later, is 67. If you claim early at 62, the very first moment you're allowed, you lock in a permanent 30% cut to your check. 30% gone for the rest of your life, and it drags down every future cost of living raise too. But if you do the opposite, if you wait, your benefit grows by about 8% for every year you hold off, all the way to age 70. Wait from 67 to 70 and you collect 24% more every month forever. Let me make that real. Say your check at 67 would be $2,000 a month. Claim at 62 instead, and it drops to about $1,400. Wait until 70 and it climbs to roughly $2,500 a month. That is an $1,100 a month swing, the difference between a tight retirement and a comfortable one, decided entirely by the age you sign up. And here's what most people do not realize. There is no investment on earth, no stock, no bond, no annuity that guarantees you an 8% raise every year with zero risk. The government is offering it to you for free. Most folks walk right past it because they're scared or impatient or nobody ever explained the size of the prize. Now here's where your $100,000 finally becomes the hero of the story. Because the number one reason people claim Social Security too early is that they retire, the paychecks stop, and they need money to live on right now. So they turn on Social Security at 62 out of pure necessity. But you've got $100,000 sitting there. What if that money's real job isn't to be your retirement, but to be your bridge? You retire at 65. You live off that $100,000 for a couple of years, and you use it to buy yourself the ability to wait, to delay Social Security to 67 or even 70, and lock in that much bigger check for the rest of your life. That, friend, is the smartest possible use of $100,000. You're not spending it, you're converting it into a permanent raise on the one income stream you can never outlive.
Now take a breath, because I want to ask you something honestly, and I want you to actually answer it in your head. Do you know, really know, what you spend in a month? Not a guess, not, oh, we're pretty careful, the actual number. Because every single thing I've told you so far depends on it. Whether $100,000 is plenty or nowhere near enough comes down entirely to what it costs to be you for 30 days. And most people have never once sat down and figured that out. This is exactly why I built the Retirement Budget Calculator. It's that simple tool I link right in the description below. It walks you through your real monthly expenses, line by line, and shows you your true number in black and white, the number you need every month, and how your Social Security and your savings stack up against it. It takes the fear out of the unknown, because the unknown is what keeps you up at night, not the facts. Go grab it after the video. Plain and simple, it's the foundation everything else in your plan is built on. And here's why knowing that number is so powerful. The average household headed by someone 65 and older spends about $61,000 a year, according to the government's own data. But that average includes people still carrying a mortgage, still making car payments, still supporting adult kids. Now picture the retiree who's paid off the house. Suddenly their real number might be $40,000 a year, or even $35,000. And a couple pulling in $50,000 of Social Security, they're not just getting by. They've got room to breathe with the $100,000 still sitting there untouched as backup. That is the entire game. It is not about earning a bigger pile. It is about shrinking the gap between what comes in and what goes out. Cut your required spending by even $500 a month, and you've done the equivalent of adding $150,000 to your savings. Let me say that again. Cutting $500 a month in expenses is worth as much as an extra $150,000 in the bank. That's a raise nobody can take away from you.
Now, let me paint you a real picture, because numbers on their own can feel abstract, and I want you to see how these pieces fit together for actual people. Picture a couple. We'll call them Dave and Susan, both 65, both just retired. Between the two of them, they've got exactly $100,000 saved. That's it. Now, the old way of thinking says they're in trouble, but watch what happens when they play it smart. First, they've paid off their house, so their real spending, the number they got from actually sitting down and adding it up, is about $5,200 a month, roughly $62,000 a year. Now, instead of grabbing Social Security the second they retire, they lean on part-time work and a slice of their savings to bridge the first couple of years, and they delay. When they finally turn on their checks, Dave collects around $2,400 a month and Susan around $1,800 because they waited. That's $4,200 a month in guaranteed inflation-protected income, $50,000 a year they cannot outlive. So now do the math on the gap. They need about $62,000 a year, and Social Security is handing them roughly $50,000. That leaves a gap of just $12,000 a year. And a $12,000 gap is one a $100,000 cushion can cover for a good long while, especially with a year or two of it sitting in safe cash, protected from any market storm. Same couple, same $100,000. The difference between panic and peace was not the size of their savings, it was the order of their decisions. That, folks, is the whole lesson in one story. All right, stick with me here, because what I'm about to share next is the part most financial advisors never bother to explain to someone with a smaller nest egg. And it's the difference between your $100,000 lasting and it vanishing in a bad year. It's called sequence of returns risk, and I'll make it plain. Imagine you retire, and in your very first year, the stock market drops 25%. If your money's all in the market and you're forced to sell to pay your bills, you're selling at the bottom, you're locking in the loss, and that money never gets the chance to recover. For somebody with $100,000, one bad year at the wrong time can gut the whole plan.
So here's the move, and it's simple. You keep 1 to 2 years of spending money, the amount that fills the gap between your Social Security and your real expenses, in plain, boring cash. A savings account, a money market, a short CD. Not exciting. Doesn't need to be. Because that cash cushion means when the market has a rough year, you spend from the cushion and you leave your invested money alone to heal. You never sell in a panic. For most of you, that's the difference between a plan that survives and a plan that breaks. This is why I keep telling you the $100,000 is a shock absorber. Now you know precisely how it absorbs the shock. Now, here's a pattern interrupt for you. A truth that sounds almost backwards. For a lot of you, the fastest path to a secure retirement isn't investing better. It isn't finding some clever fund. It's earning just a little bit longer on your own terms. Hear me out. If you can bring in even $1,000 a month, part-time, consulting, turning a hobby into a little income, 20 hours a week doing something you actually don't mind, that $1,000 a month does two enormous things. First, it covers a chunk of your expenses, so you're barely touching your savings. And second, and this is the big one, it lets you delay Social Security and let that 8% a year keep stacking up. A part-time job at 65 isn't a sign you failed. For a lot of folks, it's the single smartest bridge between "I'm not quite ready" and "I'm completely secure." And it's usually only needed for a few years, just long enough to get your guaranteed checks as big as they can be. Now, let me walk you through the landmines, because there are a few age-based traps that can quietly punish a smaller nest egg, and I don't want you stepping on any of them. The first one hits before 65, if you retire early and need health insurance. For years, generous subsidies made marketplace coverage cheap for early retirees. Well, folks, those enhanced subsidies expired at the end of 2025. We are back to the old cliff. In 2026, if your income creeps even $1 over roughly $62,000 for a single person, you can lose your subsidy entirely and watch your premium double. So if you're retiring before 65 and buying your own insurance, the income you report the year you retire directly controls your health insurance bill. Keep it managed, and you keep more of your money.
The second trap shows up at 65 with Medicare, and it's got a name: IRMA. That's a surcharge they slap on your Medicare premiums if your income is too high. Now, good news for most of you watching. With a modest income built mostly from Social Security, you'll likely sail right under it. But here's the wrinkle to file away. Medicare looks at your tax return from 2 years back to set today's premium. So a single big income year, say you sell a property or pull a giant lump sum out of your IRA all at once, can reach forward 2 years and spike your Medicare bill. Plain and simple, don't take huge one-time withdrawals without understanding the ripple. Spread things out. And the third one is actually good news, and I love delivering good news. It's your required minimum distributions, those forced withdrawals the IRS makes you take from your retirement accounts, starting at age 73 for most of you, 75 if you were born in 1960 or later. Now, for the folks with $2 million, RMDs are a genuine tax headache. But for you, with $100,000, your required withdrawal in that first year is only a few $1,000s. It's small, it's manageable, it barely moves your tax bill. So here's the reframe. A modest nest egg means the tax traps that torment wealthy retirees mostly leave you alone. Your simplicity is a gift. Not every part of having less is a disadvantage, friend. Some of it makes your life a whole lot easier.
Now, for those of you who aren't quite retired yet, maybe you've got 3, 4, 5 years left on the job, I want to hand you a tool the tax code just made a lot more powerful. If you're still working and you're between the ages of 60 and 63, there's now what they call a super catch-up contribution. In 2026, on top of the regular limits, folks in that exact age window can put away significantly more in their 401k. The total allowed climbs to $35,775 in a single year. Now, most of you can't hit that ceiling, and that's perfectly fine. But here's the point. Your last few working years are the most powerful saving years of your entire life, because you're likely at peak income with the kids gone and the mortgage shrinking. Even an extra few $100s a month into that account now, combined with delaying Social Security, can meaningfully change the retirement you walk into. Do not waste the final stretch. It counts more than any year that came before it. Let me also give the still working crowd one quiet, advanced move for those first low-income years after you retire, but before Social Security and RMDs kick in. Those years when your income drops way down are a golden window. In a year with little income, you can move some money from a traditional IRA into a Roth and pay very little or even nothing in tax on it. And once it's in the Roth, it grows tax-free and never gets hit with a required withdrawal again. On $100,000, you don't need to get fancy with this, but even a small amount in a low-income year can quietly clean up your tax picture for the rest of your life. It's the kind of move the wealthy pay advisors good money to set up, and now you know it exists. Now, I want to be a straight shooter with you, the way a good neighbor should be. Everything I've shared today is for education, to help you ask sharper questions and see your options clearly. It is not financial, tax, or legal advice because I don't know your specific situation. So before you lock in a claiming age or a withdrawal plan, sit down with a qualified professional and walk through your own numbers. That's not me covering myself. That's me caring about you getting it exactly right.
So let me bring this whole thing home, because I know I've given you a lot, and you deserve one clear thought to carry out the door. Here it is. Your account balance is not your retirement. Your guaranteed monthly income is your retirement. $100,000 standing alone is not enough to retire on. That's just the truth. But $100,000 used as a bridge to delay Social Security, sitting behind a paid-off house, backing up 2 inflation-proof checks that add up to $40,000 or $50,000 a year, protected by a cash cushion so you never sell in a crash. Friend, that is a retirement. A real one that millions of ordinary Americans are living right now and living just fine. So here's exactly what I want you to do this week. 3 things. First, go to the Social Security website and pull up your own estimated benefit at 62, at 67, and at 70. See your real numbers, not averages. Second, figure out your true monthly spending. And the retirement budget calculator in the description makes that part simple, so grab it and fill it in. And third, ask yourself the one question that changes everything. Not how do I get more money, but how do I make the income I already have reach further? Answer those 3, and you've done more real retirement planning than most people do in a lifetime. You are not behind, you are not too late, and you are absolutely not out of options. You've just been measuring the wrong number, and now you know the right one. So take a breath, pick one of those moves, and go do it, because that's how we get this done around here, one smart decision at a time. If this gave you a little peace of mind today, do me that favor. Give it a like, hit subscribe so the next one finds you, and I'll see you in the very next video. Take good care of yourself, friend.